I just want to transition here to the next topic, which is the ACLU's representation of Mahmoud Khalil
Hmm.
and the issue of pro-Palestinian speech in general. So the ACLU of New Jersey joined Mahmoud Khalil's legal team in March of this year. You've spoken publicly about this case. You've said that the First Amendment rights are at the core of this case. But before we dive into the nitty-gritty of speech issues, I just want to understand what was the procedural linchpin that freed Khalil, right?
So the issue was whether or not he should be detained pending the merits of the case, right?
Right.
And so we haven't yet gotten to the merits of the case about whether or not he should have been arrested in the first place. But the question was whether or not he should be detained before we get to the merits. And there were a couple of different factors at play. One of them was whether or not he is a flight risk and whether or not he violated the foreign policy grounds of immigration law, which basically says that they can go after people. The administration can go after people who they deem to be uh, uh, a a foreign policy, a threat to the foreign policy interests of the United States. And then there was this other issue of whether or not the ad hoc or post hoc, you know, allegation that Mr. Khalil had made an error on his visa application or his permanent residency application, whether that should be the basis for detention.
Yeah.
And a judge in New Jersey said, no, he is not a flight risk. The foreign policy grounds that the government is citing to detain him is likely unconstitutional. And excuse me, let me backtrack on that and repeat it, Adi, if that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, a federal judge in New Jersey said that he is not a flight risk and he's not a danger to communities. Secondly, they said that the foreign policy grounds that the government is citing to detain him is likely unconstitutional. And thirdly, they said that it is unacceptable that he be detained for this post hoc administrative or technical violation that the administration is alleging. And so, on all fronts, the judge decided that he should no longer be detained pending his trial. And so, this is an incredible win, of course. His freedom was incredibly important in this moment, so that he can be with his family and his newborn son, and make sure that he's there for these life moments. But he never should have been detained in the first instance. He was detained
Yeah.
for 104 days, right? For 104 days. In one of the worst facilities in the country in Louisiana. He was ripped away from his family. He was ripped away from access to legal counsel and the communities that he has been with. He missed graduation. He missed family moments. He missed the birth of his son. While it's heartwarming that he gets to be back home right now, it's also outrageous and shocking what happened to him.
Yeah, it's beyond shocking, especially post 9/11, being brown. You grow up with these kinds of horror stories that you hear that can happen, and to see it as an adult who's, understanding most of what's going on in the law and politics, it is genuinely shocking, to say the least. So I just want to move on to slightly broader speech issues. It's not just Mahmoud Khalil, but we've seen the arrest of people like Ramezia Ozturk for writing an op-ed. It seems almost like every other day there are crackdowns on campuses around the country. Students are being denied their diplomas for their pro-Palestinian speech, and not just students, but also faculty. And the ACLU has been public about warning Congress that universities are being pressured to restrict speech critical of the Israeli government out of fear of the college losing federal funding. I mean, that is just, we're talking about the supposedly greatest institutions of education, champions of liberal arts and civic education and engagement in the world. These institutions are actively trading civil liberties for money. So I just have to ask you, what do you make of this cowardice, from some of the top universities in the world?
Yeah. I am disappointed to see the capitulation that we've been seeing from universities and law firms and so many other institutions. At the core of it, though, is the Trump administration's assault on the rule of law. Right, so they are going after people that they disagree with, whether it's law firms that practice quote unquote illegal DEI or universities that are doing research and other sorts of things that they don't want to fund, or students like the ones that you mentioned, like Mahmoud Khalil, like Rumeysa Ozturk, like Mohsen Madawi, or Professor Badr Kansouri. Those are all people that they disagree with and they see as their political enemies. And so the Trump administration is going after them. They are also going after vulnerable groups, those who are politically vulnerable. Like I'm thinking about, transgender students
Yeah.
and also, the immigrant communities all across the country. These are people that don't have the same sort of political voice as other groups do, and they are in some ways easy targets, and they also rile up the Trump administration's base. And
Right.
so they're going after these people to score cheap political points.
Yeah.
And so while I'm disappointed by, for lack of a better word, the self-preservation that I've been seeing from colleges and universities and law firms and other corporate entities, I'm also encouraged by some of the ones that have resisted. There are law firms that have resisted and have won.
Yeah.
There are universities that have doubled down and have said that they're not going to allow for academic freedom to be tarnished on their campuses. And so, I do think there's a role for all of us to do more, and I would hope that universities would do more, because these are, as you say, some of the bastions of speech and thought and debate, and we need universities to be that way. But I wanted to go back to the Khalil case and the others like it for a sec and just say this. Look, at the end of the day, this is about free speech, right? What we're talking about is free speech, which is part of the cornerstone of our democracy. If we do not have free speech, then we can no longer call ourselves a democracy in this country. Uh, and that means free speech for all. It's not just speech that you and I agree with. It's not just speech that the Trump administration approves of. It's free speech for all. And we can't have a world in which the government gets to decide who gets to speak and who doesn't. That's how autocracies form. And so what I am saying to as many people as possible is that regardless of where you fall on the ideological spectrum on any issue, but particularly the issue about Israel and Palestine, regardless of where you fall on that, if you care about speech, if you care about democracy, if you care about holding government accountable, if you care that, we should not live in a society where the government can make you disappear simply because it disagrees with you, then you should be outraged by what's happening to Mahmoud Khalil, Rumeysa Ozturk, Mohsen Madawi, and so many others that the Trump administration is going after.
Hey there, if you liked that video, then subscribe to my channel, click on the link in my bio to follow me on Instagram, X, and more.